our Islamic history session today. As you'll know, the focus of today's session is on the House of Wisdom, and because I haven't got it in front of me, I'm not going to be brave and have a go at pronouncing that, but well done, Casey. I think you did a great job. So we're going to be looking at the history of Baghdad. It should be a really interesting session to find out about how learning developed in Baghdad and in what's now modern day Iraq over history. This will be led by Abdul Basit, who's the one of the tutors on the programme. And you'll have an opportunity to hear from one or two of the students who've taken the Arabic, Middle Eastern and Islamic Studies course over the last few years. You'll be able to ask them questions and find out a little bit more about their experience as mature students studying now at university. I'll say something briefly about student finance, and you're welcome to ask questions about that. And then we're going to hear from the programme manager, Dr. Samar Alafandi, who's going to give us an overview of the AIMS programme and the different ways that you can study that part-time or full-time with the University of Leeds. We'll tell you a little bit about the support that the Lifelong Learning Centre can offer, and then we'll ask what you've thought of the session at the end. So I hope that's okay with everybody. It would be really nice if you would take part throughout, and as Casey has explained, there'll be opportunities to write on the whiteboard, and we'll re-explain how you can do that. Please do chat to us in the chat function. It's really nice to know that you're there taking part, and so thanks for everyone who's found that and put messages in so far. And also you can raise your hand at any point. If you see below the slide, there's that little person. Put your hand up, you can unmute yourself and we can ask you to ask a question or make a comment. So you're all very welcome today. And I'm now going to hand over to Abdul to make a start with our taster session.
Thank you, Olivia and Casey, for your wonderful introductions. Casey, you did a really, really good job in terms of pronouncing Baitul Hikmah. Good afternoon to everyone and all our participants. Before I actually make a start on covering the content linked to the House of Wisdom, I'd just like to point out that this particular session is part of our core module called Islamic History and Civilization that all our students actually take on the program. And this particular session is delivered more towards the end of the actual academic year. So this is our look at Islamic civilization. So to kick things off, first of all, we have an illustration just actually showing the culture of learning in Baghdad. You see a lovely gentleman with a nice turban actually studying something of very importance. And again, this idea of studying research very much resonates through the emergence of Baghdad as one of the world-leading centers for knowledge and research. So before we kick things off, I'd just like to ask a question to our participants. What are the origins of the name of Baghdad, the capital city of modern-day Iraq? And please use the whiteboard in order to basically have a good estimated guess in terms of where you think this particular word originates from. So I would encourage all our participants to participate and give their answers.
So just to remind you, you can participate here by clicking on the T. This slide shows where it is, just above the slide, and then clicking on the slide and typing anywhere. Or you can type in the chat if you can't access the whiteboard, or please do feel free to put your hand up and you can say something to us verbally, whichever you prefer. And I don't know the answer to this. I'll be very impressed if anyone does.
Same here. Gold star for the one who gets the right answer. Or use the chat function if you would like to give your answer. Persian, very close. 0. I'm impressed. It does have Persian roots. That's correct. Any other takers? I'll give you a clue. Baghdad is two separate words. Armenia, Babylon. Babylon very warm. Armenia a bit far, but good try. Bindi. Persian, Assyrian. Babylon, yes. Armenia, a bit cold, but not good, good try. I'll just give a couple of just about 30 seconds. If anybody can actually identify the two words that make up Baghdad. 20 seconds. Last 10 seconds, any takers? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. I think Babylon and Assyria was paradise. Good try, but very, very close. If not very, very warm. Right. I'm going to put you all out of your misery now by actually giving you the answer. So the meaning of Baghdad. So Baghdad, actually, the term Baghdad, in terms of is the origins of the actual word, is very much under dispute. So as far as academics are actually concerned, there's still not 100%, unanimous agreement in terms of where the actual term or the name of the city actually comes from. So some have basically said that it actually comes from an Aramaic phrase. I think somebody got Aramaic actually right, so well done. So basically, Baghdad comes from the Aramaic phrase that means sheep enclosure. It doesn't sound very poetic, where you actually put sheep in a pen. Or others have actually contended that the actual word comes from the ancient Persian language. So Bagh referring to God or Allah, and Dad referring to gift. So if you put Bagh and Dad together, you have Baghdad, the gift of God. And very much for the Abbasids, the Baghdad was very much the jewel in the crown, as far as they were actually concerned, because Baghdad epitomized everything what the Abbasids actually stood for, which we will see in due course. So Baghdad, the capital of the Islamic world. So if you actually go back nearly 1300 years now, what we find is the Abbasid dynasty actually took over the reins from the Umayyads, because the Abbasids 12 years earlier had actually defeated the Umayyads at the Battle of Zab, because the Umayyads actually fell out of favor because they were alleged to have discriminated against the non-Arabs. So there was a lot of there were schisms between the Sunnis and the Shias. There were a lot of people that were actually fed up of Umayyad rule, because the Umayyads had actually done great things initially during their reign, but things actually went downhill to the extent where a lot of people switched their support to the Abbasids. So what the Abbasids did, in keeping with the practice, in keeping with the actual promise they made to the Persians, who were discriminated by the Umayyads because they weren't Arabs. One of the deals that the Abbasids made with the Persian Muslims was that the actual capital would be moved from Damascus to Baghdad. So Baghdad before 750 did not actually exist. It was just such barren land, or we would call desert. And this particular period actually starts the age referred to as the golden age of Islam. Nearly 700 years of unparalleled, unmatched achievements in the Islamic world, which actually put it, miles ahead of any other civilization on planet Earth, and even including Western civilization. And this was the actual era whereby the Muslim world saw great academics, scientists, philosophers actually being born from Cordoba to Baghdad, actually contributing to each aspect of knowledge, covering the arts, the sciences, and the humanities. And we have a few examples here where contributions were made towards medicine, mathematics, astronomy, chemistry, literature. I've just noticed that Shnov's just mentioned that he's been to Baghdad. You're a very lucky person. But I'd love to go to Baghdad, but I think he's probably going to have to hold it off for a few more years. But fascinating city in the Middle East. We just have an illustration here of two thinkers actually looking at what I think is an instrument known as the astrolabe. So the astrolabe is basically um, like the forerunner of the actual compass in terms of determining the actual position of the sun and the moon, the different prayer times. So the astrolabe was a unique instrument that the Arabs and the Muslims actually refined during the golden age of Islam. So the dawn of the golden age, so the Islamic golden age was very much, kicked off 700 years of fantastic achievements, and this basically started with the emergence of the Abbasids in 750 AD. And one of the things that motivated the Abbasids, like their predecessors, the Umayyads, was not this idea of actually taking armies to foreign lands and basically conquering them and subjugating people to to tyranny or to power and authority. So the Abbasids, like the Umayyads, very much wanted to actually create the knowledge economy, or actually putting knowledge at the heart of the community and the society. And this was actually cemented further by the Abbasids referring to Quranic injunctions, verses in the Quran that actually promoted education, such as chapter 96, verse 1, and quoting hadiths such as the ink of a scholar is more holier than the blood of a martyr. So when people actually heard about this during in the communities that actually consisted or part of the Abbasid empire, people were encouraged in order to seek knowledge and in order to basically get as much knowledge as they could, not just sacred knowledge, but also secular knowledge as well. And that actually created the foundations for what we know as the golden age of Islam. And it was no surprise to find that the Muslim world became the leading intellectual center, whether you're in Cordoba in Spain or whether you're in Baghdad. Philosophy, medicine, education, psychology, botany, all these different branches of the sciences, the arts, and the humanities really flourished with the creation of the Baytul Hikmah, or known as the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. And it wasn't just the Arabs and the Muslim scholars that actually were based in the Baytul Hikmah. You had scholars coming from all over the world. You had scholars coming from Scandinavia, places like Russia, China, also Al-Jahiz. He was one of the pioneers of evolutionary theory. He actually came all the way from East Africa and actually resided in Baghdad for a great number of years, actually conversing, exchanging research with scholars from all over the world and also the Middle East as well. So Harun al-Rashid, one of the most famous caliphs of the Abbasid era, he actually was very keen in terms of the promotion of education. And the Abbasids, if you look at their rule, they actually opened up the community and the society to non-Arab Muslims, to Jews and Christians, more so than the Umayyads, because one of the promises that the Abbasids made with the Persians was that there would be no return to the discriminatory behavior experienced by many communities and societies during the time of the Umayyads. So the Abbasids were basically, had to keep their word, otherwise they would suffer the same fate as the Umayyads. So you find that the Umayyads only lasted about 120 years, but the Abbasids nearly reigned for 500 to 600 years, which was quite a major achievement, especially in those times. So the Baytul Hikmah very much was the equivalent of Cambridge, Oxford, Yale, Stanford. That it was basically, but it was more than a university. So you find that the Baytul Hikmah attracted scholars, researchers from all over the world, attracted Jews, Christians, even people of no faith, because they saw that the House of Wisdom had some of the finest scholars actually engaging in research and also disseminating their knowledge to students and to one another. And also the Baytul Hikmah acted as a translation center and housed one of the largest libraries in the world. So the Baytul Hikmah was very much a multi-purpose center, not focusing just on the delivery of what we would call undergraduate or postgraduate education. It was a library, had a translation center, also housed students and scholars from all over the world in order to allow them to actually create a vibrant knowledge economy. And also the Baytul Hikmah played a pivotal role in terms of the creation of the translation industry. Today we have many university departments, think tanks engaging in translation. Were it not for the Baitul Hikmah, you wouldn't have the Center of Translation Studies at Leeds University, for example. That very much translation theory or applied translation studies very much finds its foundation in terms of what the scholars did at the Baitul Hikmah. And also Nestorian Christians also worked with Muslims in order to actually translate the works of the Greek fathers of philosophy, Aristotle, Plato, Pythagoras, Socrates, and their works were actually translated into the Arabic language. And some scholars have actually said that were it not for the Arabs translating Greek works, then the works of Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates would have been lost, and Europe would have probably forgotten and even never realized that these great intellectual philosophers actually existed in the first place, and that their works would have been lost, because after the golden age of Islam, those works were translated into Latin, and then from Latin they were translated into English and other respective European languages. And also the House of Wisdom was home to one of the most famous mathematicians of all time, known as Musa al-Khawazmi, who was known as the father of al-Jabr or algebra. And were it not for al-Khawazmi, then we won't be using today smartphones, iPads, Android phones, and laptops, for example, because it is only these technological objects only work through computer programs that actually use algorithms and mathematical formulas in order to ensure that software actually works on these particular appliances. And Al-Khawazmi, he actually is well known for actually writing his masterpiece Kitab al-Jabr, which actually very much lays the foundation for algebra today that many students of mathematics actually study from GCSE until postgraduate level. So the legacy of the House of Wisdom. So as I was saying earlier, were it not for the House of Wisdom, many of the works that were actually especially written in Greek and even Persian would have probably been lost forever had they been not translated into the Arabic language. And also the Baitul Hikmah was very much a rich cauldron where ideas from far afield as Southeast Asia, India, Persia, Egypt, North Africa, Greece, Byzantium, modern day Turkey. So you had scholars coming from all over the world actually sharing their ideas, sharing their history, their cultural legacy with one another in order to actually create such a unique and vibrant center such as the Baitul Hikmah or the House of Wisdom. So I'm just going to take a bit of a break now. I'm just going to ask you a question, ask the question to all our participants. What have you found interesting so far?
Just a reminder, to answer the question, you can put your hand up and we can unmute you to speak, or you can click on the T at the top of the slide, then click anywhere on the slide and start typing. And if neither of those work for you, just feel free to post in the chat and we can add to the slide.
Please don't be shy. Please do contribute. How the capital shifted from Damascus to Babylon, yes. Harun al-Rashid, yes, excellent. Have you learned something today so far that you've not come across before? Impact of philosophy. Excellent. We'll be covering philosophy just in a few moments. I did not know about the House of Wisdom until, yes, there's many people that actually are not even aware of such a great institution like the House of Wisdom. People remember Oxford, Cambridge, these institutions go back 1,000 years, but people don't realize that there was such a great institution going back nearly 1,300 years, or 1,200 years, should I say. We've had some fantastic responses. Yes. Meaning of Baghdad. Yes. Any other takers? It's okay, Munira. You haven't missed much. Welcome. Same here. Didn't know about the round city. Yes. Everything. Yes. I'll give it 10 more seconds for anybody to post any responses before I carry on. Right. If anybody's got any points to make, please do. Yeah, everything excellent. Development, Islam there. Yes. Right, I'm just going to move on. If anybody's got any comments, please do make them in the chat function, or I can answer the questions at the end. Right, so mathematics. So mathematics, as I was saying earlier, algebra, one of the fundamental aspects of mathematics, was actually pioneered by Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khawazmi through his landmark text Kitab al-Jabr wal-Muqabala. So we find that algebra, some people find algebra very difficult, some people find it very easy, but again, this was pioneered by Al-Khawazmi himself, and he actually also pioneered the terms algorithm and algorithms, and he also was very much instrumental in terms of introducing the Arabic numerals and the Hindu Arabic numeral systems as well. So, for example, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they actually are Arabic numbers or Arabic numerals, and also some people think that Hindi numerals are Arabic numerals. So again, what we find is that Al-Khawazmi, because he had interactions with Indian scholars who came all the way to Baghdad, he was able to actually use these particular numerals and promote them in everyday life. So scientific developments under the Abbasids. So what we find is that you have a number of medieval thinkers, scientists that actually contributed in terms of providing Islamic science to the Christian West. So for example, even though Greece is in Europe, and Aristotle had actually written, so much about physics, metaphysics, even many aspects of science, much of his work would have been lost had it have not been for the Arabs and the Muslims actually translating those works into the Arabic language. And Alexandria, a city in Egypt, very much for many thousands of years before, had been a center for mathematical, had been a center for geometry and also astronomical knowledge. So many of the works written by Euclid and Claudius Ptolemy would have been lost had it not been for the Arabs who actually translated those works into the Arabic language. And also the Arabs took the foundations laid by those scholars in Alexandria and also in Athens, and actually built upon the actual foundations of the sciences laid in Europe, and actually went further and actually established new discoveries in those fields. For example, Al-Biruni, he was the father of botany, botany referring to the actual classification of species and subspecies of flowers and fauna. So if we move on to medicine, again, medicine, a great deal of work had actually been done in terms of establishing medicine as a discipline in its own right. So it was unsurprising to find that the Abbasids, because they actually wanted to ensure that people were healthy, they were fit, any illnesses they contracted, that they were actually they could be treated quickly before they actually died of any complications. Because today, for example, the NHS, very much if a patient is basically operated on early or treated early, the chances of them surviving are quite high. But during the Middle Ages, many people actually died because of simple infections. Even by getting a cut from somewhere could actually ensure that somebody actually passed away, because you didn't have advances in science during the 8th century in comparison to what we have in the 21st. So we find that Baghdad, for example, during the 9th century had over 800 doctors, and there were probably tens to 100 hospitals actually scattered all over the city, actually treating people, carrying out complex operations, which was quite unique, especially when we're looking at the 8th century. And also scholars during this time were able to actually establish a detailed understanding of anatomy, actually understanding how the human body works, what do the different organs, what functions the different organs actually fulfill. And also many diseases were actually discussed, talking about the causes, how, and also the symptoms of the diseases, and also looking for possible cures as well. And also, sorry about that. And also during this time, there was a great deal of work actually went into actually understanding measles and also smallpox. I think smallpox was only eradicated just 40 years ago, I believe. So again, it's quite recent. But again, measles is always basically, you always have outbreaks of measles it's always up and down as a result of the fact that many parents don't choose to actually have their children inoculated with the MMR jab. So again, you have cases of measles, especially with adolescent or teenage children. So again, measles, you have great deal of research explanation actually being provided in terms of what measles does to people, and also what are the symptoms and how you treat this particular illness. I'd just like to ask a question to all our participants in terms of who was Ibn Sina, or if you use a Latinized term, Avicenna. I'm sure some of you must have heard of Ibn Sina and why he's famous. Scientist, yes, excellent, correct. Gold star for you. Anybody else? Astronomer, not quite. Doctor, yes. Doctor, yes. Excellent answers. Anybody else? Astronomer, not quite, but he may have actually engaged in research on astronomy, but he's not renowned for his contribution towards astronomy. Doctor, yes. Munira, excellent. Or we would describe as a modern day doctor. He's also more famous for a particular discipline linked to medicine. I'll give you a clue. Where do you get your medicines from? When you hand over the prescription, where do you hand over your prescription? A physicist, yes. Doctor, yes, correct. So where do you, yeah, pharmacy, excellent. Pharmacology, yes, brilliant. Well done, Bindi. Well done, Viro. Yes, pharmacy. So Ibn Sina is actually the royal patron of the Pharmaceutical Society in this country, and I will give you the reasons why he's actually held in such high esteem in a moment. So Avicenna, or Ibn Sina, the reason why he's given such a high accolade in the West is because of his book he wrote, which is his magnum opus, known as the in Arabic the Qanun fit Tib, or the canon of medicine. That in this particular encyclopedia, consisting of many sections, he actually worked very, very diligently in terms of describing different illnesses, actually pointing out the causes, the symptoms, and also how to treat them. And this was in an age where you didn't have pharmaceutical companies like GlaxoSmithKline, for example, AstraZeneca. Again, many of the remedies that Avicenna actually proposed in his Qanun Fitib, or the canon of medicine, was using natural ingredients. Like, for example, if you have a heavy cold or a cough, if you want to get rid of it, you use turmeric in milk. You can actually boil fresh turmeric in milk, drink that, and then you can actually get rid of your cold within probably a day or 2 days, using honey as an antiseptic agent in order to actually reduce the infection or clean the wound. So Avicenna actually played an instrumental role in terms of actually using natural ingredients to cure injuries, for example, or even illnesses. So again, much of his work very much directly influenced other scholars in Europe after the golden age of Islam actually ended. So the Qanun Fitib, or the canon of medicine, very much established the actual foundations of medicine, and also of pharmacology and pharmacy as well. So astronomy, so we find that even though Alexandria was very much a center for astronomy, we find that Al-Battani, he very much actually created an instrument where he could try and accurately determine what the Earth's axis was. And also Battani, Averroes, Nasiruddin al-Tusi, Mohyuddin Urdi, and Ibn al-Shatir actually were able to incorporate the Copernican heliocentric model, because it was during the medieval ages that many Christian, Jewish, and even Muslim scholars to a certain extent actually believed that all the planets actually revolved around the Earth, until Nicholas Copernicus much to the annoyance of the Catholic Church, actually argued that it wasn't all the planets that were orbiting the Earth, it was the actual planets orbiting the actual sun, not not the Earth. So we find fundamental shift in terms of understanding the position of Earth in respect of the other planets within the solar system, or we would describe as the Milky Way. The astrolabe, we saw an illustration of that earlier. Very much was initially the basic model of the astrolabe was very much designed by the Greeks, but the Arabs and the Muslims actually refined the astrolabe in order to actually determine the length of the day, the prayer times. Again, this was before the advent of technology or computers that can now determine when sunrise will be in this country, when sunset. So again, the astrolabe helped determine the prayer times, the five daily prayers, helped determine where the planets were in the solar system or the universe. So again, the astrolabe, a lot of work was done with it in terms of helping people in order to actually pray, in order to actually determine where the Earth was in relation to the other planets. So this is just an illustration of the actual medieval thinkers very much trying to understand who God was. Again, trying to understand the very source of God very much it comes within under a science called metaphysics, trying to actually understand why we exist, who God is, whether God exists. Again, these questions are very much being debated by the characters in this particular image. So just to conclude, I'm just going to talk about development of Islamic philosophy. So Islamic philosophy very much flourished under the Abbasids. And again, Oliver Leaman, in his book, A Brief Introduction to Islamic Philosophy in 1999, he actually argues that Islamic philosophy is not philosophy just produced by Arabs or Muslims, that it also incorporates the works and the achievements of non-Muslim scholars, like, for example, Moses Maimonides. He was born in Spain. He was an Arab. He was a Jew. So again, very much his works were actually counted as part of Islamic philosophy because of the fact that his work was actually produced under Muslim rule. So Islamic philosophy is neither just devoted to the study of Islam or philosophical or theological issues. Again, any Christians or Jews that were living under Muslim rule, any works that they actually devised or wrote, very much included under the branch of Islamic philosophy. And Islamic philosophy was very much actually the savior of Aristotle and his works, because were it not for the emergence of Islamic philosophy, then the West would have never known about Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. I mean, and some people will disagree with what I'm saying, but again, the very fact that those works were translated into the Arabic language allowed the Europeans to actually translate it into Latin and then into the respective European languages such as French, Spanish, Italian, and English. And again, what you find is that even Thomas Aquinas, who actually came along in the 12th or the 13th century, he actually referred to scholars such as Al-Ghazali in his book Summa Contra Gentiles, but he never mentioned Al-Ghazali by name. So you find that European scholars were very much influenced by the contribution of the Arabs and the Muslims in terms of understanding the purpose of humans on earth. Does God exist? When was the universe created? What significance does the universe actually have as far as our understanding is concerned of it? And what are our roles fundamentally living on planet Earth? I will conclude there. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, Abdul. I always learn so much from your sessions, and as a lapsed Catholic, I'm particularly interested in hearing about things that annoyed the Catholic Church, about where the planets revolve around. So we'll pause now if anyone would like to ask Abdul any questions about what you've just heard. As we said before, please feel free to put any questions in the chat, or it would be lovely to hear your voices if anyone feels brave enough to put their hand up. So if you have any questions, please do ask them at this point.
I think Dana mentioned a very good point, and I didn't even know, this is something new I've learned, that there's a park called Al-Jahiz in Damascus. So yes, he's probably, I mean, Al-Jahiz was referred to as the boggle-eyed one because he was renowned for having such big eyes. So yes, Al-Jahiz left his mark as far as Baghdad is concerned. Yes, sorry, Al-Jahiz Park in Damascus. Yes, Al-Jahiz was a very famous botanist and early evolutionary.
Yes, so these famous names have spread throughout the Middle East, and it's a shame that we don't always know as much about them in parts of the West. Safwan's asked a question about how we get hold of the recordings. So we will send you lots of resources by email after the session, which will include a link to the recording on YouTube. So, and also for anyone who wasn't able to make the previous Arabic, Middle Eastern and Islamic Studies taster sessions, which took place in May and June, we have links to recordings of all of those on our YouTube channel. So once you have that, you can browse any tasters for this program or any others you may have missed. Feel free to keep asking questions, but I think we will bring in Mariam now, because we're lucky enough to have two of our... Oh, hang on, we have a question for you, Abdul, first of all, in the chat about significant achievements of the Abbasids in the realm of the visual arts. What an excellent question. Do you want to come back in, Abdul?
Yes, I mean, I think as far as the arts were concerned, like the Umayyads, the Abbasids very much focused on calligraphy and also using patterns like geometric patterns in order to actually adorn palaces and mosques. I mean, you see, the Abbasids were very much influenced by Persia. So Caliph Al-Ma'mun's mother basically said that the Abbasids would be nowhere were it not for the influence of the Persians and then and the Sassanid Empire. So a lot of Abbasid architecture and the arts was very much influenced by the Persians. So if you go to places like Iran, Persia, and also the Central Asian republics, we find that the Abbasids allowed Persian architecture to flourish because of the unique style of it.
Thank you, Abdul. An excellent question, Tayab. Munir has just asked about recordings of other sessions, including yesterday's. Yes, so for those of you who registered for the summer school, at the end of the summer school, we'll be sending you the recordings of all the sessions that we have recorded, and with lots of other resources. But just bearing in mind the time, I'd like to introduce Mariam now, who is just coming up to her graduation from Arabic, Middle Eastern and Islamic Studies. So over to you, Mariam, to tell us about your experience.
Thank you. Similarly, just like you've just mentioned, Olivia, every time I hear a lecture, although I've probably heard this lecture before by Abdul Basit, I still find lots of fascinating nuggets of information and pieces of history that just often get overlooked in the mainstream academic. So it was a pleasure to be a student of yours again, Abdul Basit. Thank you. So I just wanted to give you a little sort of brief overview of my journey as a student at the LLC and at the University of Leeds. So when I left school with just a handful of GCSEs, and then I went on to undertake some training and some work experience in childcare and education. Realizing that wasn't for me, I then moved on to work in a call center, which was supposed to be temporary thing, but I ended up staying there for 15 years and progressing through the ranks. Now, unfortunately, due to the financial crash, I then found myself redundant. And as a consequence, I arrived at a really major crossroads in life as to, what I do in terms of re-entering the work market, the job market. What I did find is it was really difficult to get back in there without having a degree, because for every job that I applied for, there were so many more graduates who were, seemingly more attractive on the CV as well. So it was quite difficult. I was really fortunate. At the same time, I noticed that the University of Leeds was offering a BE in Islamic Studies. Being a Muslim myself, it was a topic that I find completely fascinating. I have done since childhood. I embarked on the initial investigations of the course appropriate or not, well, it could lead to anything meaningful in terms of into the job market.
Hi, Mariam.
Initially, I felt really apprehensive.
Sorry to
Hello.
interrupt. The sound is cutting out quite a lot. I know you had issues earlier that you were able to
Oh, is it?
resolve. I'm just wondering if it's possible to just have a look at that and see, because I don't know if other people are having that issue or if it's just me, but I really want to hear what you're saying and it's cutting out slightly. Yeah, no,
I've got the
you're
same
getting
device and the same. Is that any better?
It's much better now, much clearer. So I'm so sorry to interrupt you. If
Okay.
your train of thought can take you back
No, it's
slightly, that would
fine.
be lovely.
So yeah, so sorry about that, and do tell me again if it goes if the sound quality, you know, is compromised. So yeah, I found myself at a real major crossroads and needed to sort of work out how I get back into the workforce. And so I like I say, I was quite pleased to find that there was a course available at the University of Leeds. Leeds is my hometown, so you know, and I've got a couple of little children as well, or they were little when I first started the course. But like I said, I was quite apprehensive before I started the course at the university because I hadn't been in education for a long time, you know, well over 20 years of not being in education. From when I was last in education, things had moved on so much. So, you know, education had moved from being pen and paper exercise to being, you know, largely online. What I found was I needed to find a course that worked for me in terms of managing the challenges I faced with childcare, and also you know, that little bit of confidence that I needed to get back into academia. So therefore I chose to do the Islamic Studies course as an initial part-time. So I did my first 2 years as part-time, and then I progressed to the final 2 years as full-time. You know, the course is an interdisciplinary course, so you learn so much. I mean, you've just heard a little snapshot of Islamic history and civilization there by Abdul Basit. But throughout the 4 years, I've learned some basic Arabic language skills. I've learned about the Sharia. I've learned about key texts from the Quran and the Hadith. I've learned about modern Middle Eastern history, as in, you know, sort of in a more political spectrum as well. I've learned about Arab media. I've even taken on a module to study drama and cinema, Arab drama and cinema, which has been brilliant. I've also had other colleagues on my course who've learned different languages like Persian and Turkish as well. So the course offers, you know, quite a variety in terms of you know, modules that would be rooted within Islamic studies itself, but you do have the option of choosing discovery modules later on, which will enable you to sort of widen, you know, broaden the horizon a little bit if you chose to take that route. What I found as well is within the first couple of years, certainly while I was a part-time student, I found that was as much support that I could ask for from the Lifelong Learning Centre. So, for example, there was I took part in the Kickstart for Skills training course, which really helped me get to grips with writing and, you know, writing academic material, referencing, and all of these kind of really important skills that you need to be able to, you know, sort of progress through the university as well. And that really helped me move on from for that transition from part-time to full-time. So yeah, now I find myself almost ready to graduate. So I should, you know, I get my final results through on Monday. I've achieved more than I thought I would achieve, and I've had just the right level of support all the way through. And you know, I'm now at another crossroads, but you know, I'm much, you know, the future looks a lot more brighter and a lot more positive. There's a lot more opportunities that are opened up for me as a consequence of having done the degree. And certainly more than anything, it's built my confidence in the way in which I can approach the choices that I have available to me as well. So, you know, well done for being here today, because that's probably the first step, or one of the first steps. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Mariam. You've given us such an excellent overview of your journey, and I think Samar will reiterate when you're giving us the programme overview what a fantastic job Mariam has done throughout the course. So I think you're graduating very securely next week by the sounds of it. So it's lovely to hear from you at this point.
I've had some really brilliant teachers. Hint, hint, Abdul Basit.
I think, Shno, we've got a great question about work opportunities after graduation, and I think, Samar, you're going to cover that, aren't you, in your overview of the course and some of the things that past graduates have gone on to do, and it really is very broad. So thank you, Mariam. Do feel free to keep asking questions of our students and our tutors throughout the session, but I'm going to bring in Saba here to share her experience of studying on the course, because everyone's journey is different. So over to you, Saba.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and assalamu alaikum. My name is Saba, and as been mentioned, that every one of us we have different experience and the story. Firstly, I would like to say thank you for all the team and for Casey, Olivia, Fiona, everyone, because I'm learning champion with them. Plus, I would like to say big thank you and Jazakumullah khair to Samar and Abdul Basit, because they were my teachers for the first 2 years part-time, and I am on my third year, which is equivalent to second full-time. Firstly, my name is Saba Akaid. I am Arabic lady. I joined this course because I thought Arabic, Middle Eastern and Islamic study is something nice to learn, as I'm from Middle Eastern country. But in reality, it's nice to learn and to know your religion and your country from academic point of view. I'm a mom for 3 children. My first daughter and my youngest year 4. So it's struggling, but the most important is organizing and managing your time. It's very nice to be a student. Already I had my degree from my country, from Lebanon. I'm an accountant, finance, programmer. I like to change all my certificate or my qualification, because already I am an advisor, employment and education advisor. I'm a caseworker plus community leader. So why I'm studying? Because I will have my degree, inshallah, next year. It will be degree in Middle Eastern. Why I'm changing? Because already the job which I am doing, it's nice to have qualification. And so every one of us, sometimes if you are like young student, you study, you get qualification to be able to find a job. In my situation, because I changed my career, so I like to have a strong base and to study what I'm working in. There's something very important. Teachers, everyone at uni, they are very, very, very mashallah supportive people. They are not only teachers, they are big brothers, big sisters, moms. I couldn't find anyone supportive more than them. Even if I lose myself, I can go there. They are the only people who they know who I am. I feel myself I am in my family, and I feel them closer to my family. They know everything about me more than my close family. There is very important stuff I would like to mention in case anyone has any kind of disability. Sometimes disability is not showing. Sometimes might be mental disability, or we might feel low, depressed, ill. So the most important, be close to your teachers, to your personal tutor, inform them about anything. They are human like us. They can feel what we are feeling. They had experience. They might went through what we went, what we are going. So I am one of the students who keep suffering of many illnesses, but alhamdulillah, I am still carrying on. Even with the head of the department, Dr. Mustafa, once I went crying, I cannot carry on. I'm going already, new stuff coming in my body, in my stuff. But mashallah, they give you the strength, not because I'm the person who likes to be the first. That's how I like to be But he said, Sabah, you have children, you are not studying as first like qualification or first degree. You are doing well, you are good, you are doing everything, you are having high marks. So carry on, don't keep aiming, I need to be first, first, first. The most important is passing, not only being first. So that support, mashallah, it was something for me great. So if you have any question, ask me. But as much as I say thank you, or thank you is not enough, I say Jazakallah khair, means may God reward them for all their patience and their support they give us, everyone at uni. That's everything. And if you have any question, please feel free.
Thank you so much, Saba. Oh, we are so lucky to have such incredible students. That was an amazing overview of your experience, and I just think I personally find it so inspiring to hear that everything you have been able to achieve alongside parenting, you know, a single parent to 3 children, working, and health issues, and Mariam as well, that it's just phenomenal. So thank you for both of you for acknowledging the support that the Lifelong Learning Centre and the university provides, and we just want to say that it's very much our ethos and our aim to make sure that circumstances, whatever they may be, do not prevent them from being able to access and succeed in a fantastic education. So please do continue to ask questions throughout the next section. Thank you again to Mariam and Saba. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Samar Alafandi now to take us through a little. Oh, no, first of all, sorry, I'm just going to briefly say something about student finance for higher education. Just to put your mind at rest.
Sorry,
Hi,
Olivia,
Saba.
because the connection. Yeah, sorry, I don't know if anyone asked me any question because connection gone and came back.
No, we've just been saying what a wonderful job you did of telling us about your experience and about the course, Saba. But if you're able to stay around,
Yes, of
hopefully.
course. With you. Yeah.
Lovely. We may have some questions when we hear more about the programme from Samar. But just to say briefly, before Samar tells us about the course, the student finance situation for higher education is obviously a real worry for many adults who will think about, well, how can I fund a university degree? I have a family, or I have a mortgage, or I have bills to pay. And we just want to really put your mind at rest that there are no upfront fees for higher education. You should be entitled to a loan to pay your tuition fees and also for living costs, as long as you meet certain criteria around not only having a degree that's equivalent to a UK degree and being ordinarily resident in the UK. But our guidance officers can help you make sure that you meet that criteria. So you don't pay up front for university in the UK, you just pay back those loans when you're earning over £26,000 a year. And at the moment, I think the repayments are around £30 a month. So it's quite an affordable amount if in the hope is that it will give you career progression and they open up different jobs for you. So that should be an affordable amount at that level of pay. There are also grants available for disability support and for parents. So depending on your income, parents may be entitled to get 85%, I think it is, of the childcare costs covered. And yes, thank you, Casey. Casey's just posted a link to the session that our colleague John Lees is running on the 16th of July, which is an introduction to student finance, and we'll cover this in much more detail. But I think we'll hand over to Samar now, because I'm sure you'd like to hear more about the course. So over to you, Samar.
Oh, hello everyone. Thank you, Olivia, and thank you, Sabah and Mariam, for your great input. It was a pleasure actually having you in our classes. Welcome to you all, and my name is Samar Afendi. I'm the program manager, and I would like to give you an overview about the program. Also, I'm happy to take questions during the presentations. Please use the chat function to write your questions. So the program, As you can see from the title, it covers three main subjects. Arabic is one of the fastest growing languages in the world, spoken by over 300 million people. Middle Eastern Studies, which is in demand as a result of the political and cultural changes in the Middle East and North Africa. Study of Islam is a growing area as it teaches the religion's role in the 21st century and beyond. This program is taught over 2 years part-time or 1 year full-time. The part-time program is taught 2 days a week, providing flexibility for those with work and family commitments, like what we've heard from Mariam and Sabah. The program is taught over 3 to 4 days a week, depending on your chosen degree destination. So on completion of your certificate, you may progress onto the Arabic, Islamic, and Middle Eastern Studies Department at the University of Leeds. There you study for a further 2 years to complete your degree in Islamic or Middle Eastern Studies. And if you've chosen the Arabic language as major subject, you'll graduate with a BA in Arabic and Islamic Studies or Arabic and Middle Eastern Studies. And that means you will study for a further 3 years, as they include the year abroad. In order to gain entry to the program, you need 3 A-levels at grade C or above, and GCSEs in English language and maths at grade C4 or above. We will provide matriculation tests for mature students, those over 20 years of age, who do not possess these qualifications. Now, before I carry on, do you have any questions? No? You can use to raise your hand. Okay, I'll carry on then. So the curriculum of the program, it covers a wide range of subjects. Some are compulsory and others are optional, depending on your chosen degree program. The compulsory modules are academic development through the study of Abrahamic faith. The module introduces students to key academic skills and provides an appreciation of the main theological concepts within Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Key texts in Middle Eastern religions provides an in-depth analysis of the development of the key concepts found in the religious texts of the Middle East and how they influenced societies from the past to the present day. Islamic history and civilization looks at the achievements of the Arabs and Muslims during the Golden Age in Islam, from the 7th to the 14th century. And we've just had an example of Bayt al-Hikmah from Abdul Basit. So besides the compulsory modules, you have to study another 3 modules from the list, depending on the program you choose. These modules are Arabic modules, allow students to develop Arabic language skills from scratch, which means you don't need prior knowledge of the language beforehand. Introduction to the Middle East, this module provides students with an excellent grounding and appreciation of the history, culture, and religions of the Middle East from the 3rd century to the present day. Introduction to Islam. This module gives the student a strong foundational knowledge of the development of Islamic faith from its conception until the present day. Students will have an appreciation of how Islam shaped global history and what impact it has had on societies in recent times. Women, Culture and Islam looks at the key challenges facing Muslim women today across the globe. Islam in Western societies look at the key challenges facing Muslim societies in Europe, North Africa, and Islamic world. As we can see, this diagram demonstrates once you have completed the certificate in Arabic, Middle Eastern, and Islamic studies on a full or part-time basis, you have efficiently completed a third of a 3-year degree. This means studying a further 2 years full-time with the Arabic, Islamic, and Middle Eastern Studies Department, which will allow you to graduate with a BA in Islamic Studies or Middle Eastern Studies. And like I mentioned earlier, if you've chosen to obtain a degree in Arabic and Middle Eastern Studies or Arabic and Islamic Studies, then you are required to spend an academic year in Morocco or Jordan to practice the language and immerse in the culture. You will progress to the year abroad straight after completing the certificate. Then you come back to Leeds to join the second level of your degree. And here we can see some of our past graduates enjoying their big day. And Mariam will be joining them soon, wearing that gown. Some past students have gone into postgraduate study. For example, some students choose to pursue their masters in criminology, advanced Arabic, and law. Other students choose to go into teaching, while others pursued careers in a wide range of sectors like banking, translation, and business. And here we have some quotes from graduates stating what they believe gained from their studies with us. Give you time to read. Okay. And this is another student of ours, her case studies in front of you to have a look. Rushna joined the certificate program in 2012, and after completing her BA and master, started her PhD at Leeds last September. And finally, the teaching team, including myself, Dr. Abdel Basit, and Sajda Khan. Thank you very much for listening, and I wonder now if we have any questions. So please go ahead.
Samar.
Now.
Hi.
We have a question from Snow regarding applying for the course before he gets his GCSE English. If you just want to talk about matriculation tests, please.
Oh yes, matriculation test. If people don't have, for mature students, we're talking about here, people over 21 years of age, if they don't have the GCSEs in English language and maths, we offer them matriculation test. So we invite them to do a test in English language to make sure that they have the level to be able to study at university. Also, we give them basic tests in math. So the math, it won't be equivalent to the GCSE. It will be very basic because I know some people maths, you know, they feel is not for them. So those tests, once they passed, they give them the qualification to actually join the program. Thank you, Abdul Basit. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Samar. Shno also asked a question about the work opportunities after graduating, but you did cover some of the diverse careers that people have gone into. Do add any follow-up questions to that, Shno, if you'd like any more information. We also had a question from Bindi about the year abroad and how that can work for people with families. But as I understand it, not everyone pursues that route, do they? Because it doesn't always work for people depending on their circumstances.
That's right. Yes, if people, some people actually with families, if they are very young, some took their children over there to Morocco. I'm talking about, and they were fine. Some, if they are old enough, they leave them behind because it's not kind of a year. It's academic year, which we are about 11 weeks before Christmas break, and then coming back to the like Morocco, for example, in end of January. So for another 11 weeks. So it's not a very long kind of year. But if can't do that, the Arabic, the year abroad, sorry, is compulsory only if you've chosen to have your Arabic language as a major subject. So you can progress to Eastern Studies or Islamic Studies program, and you can carry on if you are fond of learning more Arabic after finishing your first year. We have discovery modules, as we call them, so you can carry on with the with learning the Arabic language, but it won't be at kind of depth like when you study it as a degree program.
Thank you very much, Samar. I think Mariam has something to add to that. Do you want to unmute yourself and speak, Mariam?
Yeah, Shno just asked about matriculation tests. Can I just say that I was feeling particularly apprehensive about the matriculation test when I first was looking into joining the course. And I found that I got the right level of support, lots of practice papers. There's a lot of support online as well. I think if you've been out of education for a long time, you'll be surprised at what you can learn from YouTube. I wouldn't put that in your way as a barrier. You will get the right level of support and you will be able to pass that. I mean, if I could pass a maths test, anyone can do it, trust me.
Thank you, Mariam. That's very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to add to that as well, there are, it really does depend on your level of English, and if it is as an additional language, then often we would recommend a GCSE first, just to work through the levels of ESOL and develop your English language speaking and listening practice. But our guidance advisors could certainly guide you on that. Saba, did you want to add something at this point?
Yes, I would like to tell to everyone, don't be scared and don't feel shy. Give a try. Because for me, because I'm a mature student, and like if my daughter at uni, so imagine how old I am. So the situation, I went for the matriculation English exam. I haven't done any preparation. I haven't done any revision, nothing at all. Just I went and I did it. But sometimes it depends sometimes the conversation is not strong enough as the writing, so we are different and unique. So give your chance a try. and don't say I might not pass, I might. So don't think negatively, just think positively. Everyone will pass. They are not strict, but they want the best for us to not be struggling later in our essays because there is a specific like English level. But I haven't done any revision, I haven't done anything, and I passed. So maybe because my English less, but maybe my writing English better. I don't know. But give yourself a chance. Don't be scared and don't hesitate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saba. That's an excellent point, and I think we would all agree, everyone at the Lifelong Learning Centre, we want you to succeed. We want you to have those opportunities. So things like alternative entry tests are not there to put barriers in your way. They're there to help you to get to the next stage of your journey. Please feel free to continue asking questions, but as we're getting to 5:15 now, I just wanted to draw your attention to our advice and guidance service. So if you don't feel like you've had your questions answered today, or you've got more follow-up questions, or really if you have any inkling that you might be thinking about university but you need to explore what that would mean for you, then please do book an appointment with either Denise or Mohammed. You can see them on the slides here, to have a guidance appointment. And this is a chance to talk through all your options in higher education, not just for this course, not just at Leeds University, but to look impartially at every, all the different courses you could do that would work best for your situation, the finance and all those kinds of things. So the details are on the slides to book an appointment, but this will also be contained in the follow-up email that we'll be sending you. Casey has very kindly posted the link to the evaluation in the chat there. So before you leave us today, please do take a moment to click on that and give us a little bit of feedback. And thank you, Greg. Or it may be the other way around. We have a poll on the screen as well. So please do tell us what you thought of today's session. And I really would like to say a huge thank you to Saba and to Mariam for sharing your stories so generously, and to all of you for participating and asking such excellent questions throughout.